I want to unpack the idea that if you know the difference between these two types of challenges, it can not only set you apart in the work you do, but it can also sort of give you some comfort about exploring the ideas that may actually impact the change that you're trying to make. And the two types of challenges I want to talk about today really apply to any of your self-directed learning or growth that you're working through, but also in my case where you're working with knowledge workers in educational settings and you are working as a coach. And I want to be clear, working as an instructional coach in an educational setting right now, there are a ton of challenges. And I want to make sure that you understand there are no easy solutions. But knowing the difference between those two challenges or the types of challenges that you have or are experiencing and applying the right solutions can really set you up to experience some sort of flourishing feeling or this idea that you are thriving and solving the right challenges. And for those of you who want to think about this in a personal context of growth or development, again, getting clear on the two types of challenges and distinguishing between those two and really working on solutions that matter can set you apart as you continue your growth journey. So the two types of challenges, really straightforward, sort of start to finish here, are technical challenges and adaptive challenges. And this comes from sort of the mentorship that I had through Jim Knight in the instructional coaching group and the work of Ron Heifetz and his work in adaptive leadership. And we'll start first with technical challenges, okay? And I would just want to take you through sort of this bulleted list of information about what a technical challenge is and why knowing what solutions work in a technical challenge will help you sort of navigate with a little bit more ease these challenges going forward. So a technical challenge is a lot of times easy to identify. These challenges often lend themselves to quick and easy solutions. Many times these challenges can be solved by an expert. You don't need to do the work. We have somebody on hand or in-house that can solve that work. Many times these technical challenges don't really require too much of a shift in our work, but it's just sort of retooling one little part and then we get right back to the work at hand. And this is what people love about technical solutions and technical challenges is that these solutions to these technical challenges can often be solved pretty quickly. And there's a good source of energy around these solutions. Now let's shift our focus over to adaptive challenges. Adaptive challenges are difficult to identify, but they're easy to deny, right? You could think about this in the context of your sort of work as a knowledge worker. If I'm in a classroom, and I had this issue back when I was teaching 5th and 6th grade, there are a lot of times where I didn't own the fact that I had an engagement issue or I had behavior issues. I thought a lot of times I would sort of look for these technical solutions that were out there and blame sort of external factors. Not like I wasn't blaming parents or the system or the kids, but I think at large, I was saying there has to be this external factor that's contributing to why I'm experiencing discomfort. Instead, I should have been looking inward, right? So that was easy to deny that I had an issue. I should have been looking a little bit more inward and saying like, actually, this might be because I'm not as planned as I would like to be, or I didn't have an activity that could have sort of mitigated some of those behaviors. So that's an example of having something that's a little bit more difficult to identify, but it's certainly easy to deny. Another key feature of adaptive challenges are that it requires a change, some sort of change in your values, your beliefs, or even your approach to the work that you're doing. So if you go back to my example when I was experiencing challenges in the classroom around engagement, which I didn't address, I not blamed, but looked for external sources that were contributing to those behaviors, I really would have had to have shifted my approach to my work or some of the beliefs that I have around why students might need something different in those times. But that would have been a little bit more challenging to get to the point where I could get clear on identifying those factors or shifting a change in my beliefs, my values, or even the work that I was doing at that particular point. Another key factor when it comes to adaptive challenges is it's probably going to require a change in a few areas of your work. So in my example, again, I probably had to make a shift in my planning process. I had to make a shift in learning something new that would help with the engagement, like a protocol or a strategy for some sort of learning activity, all of those things would have had me sort of shifting my approach to my work or changing in more than just one area. I might have had to talk less so that others can talk more. All of those would require change in many different areas. A lot of times with adaptive challenges, the person who has the challenge or the issue is the person who's going to be responsible for that solution. But many times that is a big challenge too, because I can resist that I have an issue to begin with, or that there are solutions that are beyond my sort of comprehension or the scope of my work that I'm doing at this point. So I kind of put them off, or I sort of table the ideas of working through those challenges. And the last one is these challenges require us to sort of be in this learning cycle. And now that we're clear on technical challenges and adaptive challenges, it's worth noting that you can't necessarily, I'm sure there are cases where this has worked, but you can't necessarily apply a technical solution to an adaptive challenge, right? You're just going to induce more friction into the equation, right? And what we want to avoid is that sort of feeling. So I want to offer 3 suggestions to sort of set yourself up. And if you're coaching others, in my case, your knowledge now of understanding the difference between technical and adaptive challenges, but now really getting clear on 3 steps that can really help that. And this does go back to having a clear learning cycle once you've identified an adaptive challenge. But I want to offer these 3 sort of pathways that can help you in the work that you do. And the first one is to get clear on experimentation, right? Like, what are the things now that we've identified, hey, here's the challenge. Or if you go back to my example, now that we're clear that Brian is experiencing some engagement challenges, right? And we're solving for engagement. Now I can apply the right inputs. And the way that I would do that is through experimentation. I don't know if these things are going to work, but I'm hedging my bets on the idea that if I study them and understand them well enough, and I apply them with an experimenter's mindset or this inquiry style mindset, it's possible we arrive at solutions that are sort of increasing the likelihood that we'll address the challenge the right way. So you could think about this in terms of like A/B testing as one way to think about it. I might try something, a strategy or a protocol, and I'm just sort of trying one thing one day. I might start with a story on another day as a way to engage my students. So now that you're clear on the type of challenge, in this case, we're talking about adaptive challenges, and you are willing to experiment and take an inquiry stance, the next thing to do is to observe, right? To sit back and collect some information about the experiments or the changes that you're instituting. Right? So if you put something into practice, in my case, if I had introduced a strategy, I want to step back and I want to watch that thing. And once I know if it's working, then I'll continue to work through it or expand it. Or if it's not working, I've got to adjust. And that brings me to the 3rd step in this phase 2, which is now that we're in adaptive challenges, we're willing to experiment, we're sitting back and we're observing the information and finding out what's happening. Now we get to take those observations and do something with them, right? Now is the time where we want to iterate. That's the 3rd step here, is really making sure that we can iterate or tinker with the information or the experiments themselves to refine them in a way where they start to meet our expectations. So there you have it. If you are working with someone, or you are in a sort of knowledge worker, or you're working through a challenge in your own life, make sure you have the right challenge and you're applying the right solution. And if you find out that any of the information that has worked for me is going to help you, if you want to sit back and you want to experiment or design some experiments, or you want to observe that information, or just get in there and iterate, those are all sort of permission slips to sort of approach your challenges with a meaningful or intentional approach that can really benefit you and the people that you're working with. I don't know, it's worked for me in all of these years that I've been a coach, just making sure that I have a handle on the type of challenge and our approach to that challenge. It has served me well and the people that I work with, and so that's why I wanted to come on here and just share it with all of you. I appreciate you sticking around to the end. I hope this helps you in some capacity. I know it's helped me to kind of think it through here. If you want a document, I have a document a PDF document that has worked for me in the past and continues to work for me to this day. If you want a copy of that document, I'd be happy to get it to you. Just leave me a note and I'll drop it your way. But thanks for all you do. I appreciate you being here.